The time for this debate has expired. I call on private and local order of the day number 1.
Papawai and Kaikokirikiri Trust's Amendment Bill, third reading.
Alistair Scott.
I move that the Papawai and Kaikokirikiri Trust's Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, firstly I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the trustees and their supporters of the Trust up in the gallery. Welcome. Welcome folks, this is your house. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your initiative in driving this bill through the House. It's been a little time coming, but this is the third reading. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the work of the Select Committee, particularly around what could have been a hiccup, what could have been a delay where the idea of translation in Te Reo was brought into the discussion. And I know ideally that would have been the case. Ideally we would have the two languages side by side in this bill. But I do thank the committee for seeing the pragmatism, practical and real solution to the issue at the time, which was to stick to the one language, and there is an option down the track, there's an opportunity down the track to have Te Reo Māori at a later date. So I appreciate the pragmatic decision made by the Select Committee. I'd particularly like to thank the Chairman, Nuk Karako, for his leadership and guidance and assistance to me through the process. Also like to particularly mention Mika Whaitiri and Marama Fox, two local MPs who have also supported me and contributed to the process of the bill through the Select Committee and through the House. And I also look forward to their contribution when they relate and talk about their whakapapa back to Papawai, which I'm sure they will. Mr Speaker, I'll bring the point about whakapapa back to Wairarapa. I cannot whakapapa back to any iwi in the Wairarapa, in any iwi in any region of New Zealand. So I do not, and I know I'm missing it. Exactly. and I know, so therefore I don't pretend to understand the importance of the link the Māori link have to their land. So I don't want to even attempt to traverse that subject. I will leave that to the aforementioned to discuss the importance of the land. Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased for the trustees and especially the beneficiaries of the Papawai and Kaikokirikiri Trust today. This is an important piece of legislation, not just for the trustees and the beneficiaries, but in my view, in a small way for all New Zealanders. And I'll try and explain. When I first read the Act of 1943, I was struck by how sanctimonious the language was in the Act. It's terrible. This bill removes the patronising attitude that is so prevalent in that Act. And of course, we're 70 years down the track, and of course, we're much better educated, we're much more aware, we're much more empathetic and understanding. So this bill allows Wairarapa Māori to determine their own future relating to the trust, the assets of this trust, for themselves. The old Act was very restrictive, very prescriptive. There was no ability for the Māori trustees to determine for themselves the choice that they should have had. So there was a lot of hamstrings in the Act. The type of recipient was very restrictive. The type of assistance that was able to be given to the beneficiaries was very restrictive. We had the Ministry of Education and the Māori Land Court restricting the wishes of the local people. So this sanctimony at the time, basically it was saying, sorry guys, you guys don't know what you're doing over in the Wairarapa. We here in the Māori Land Court and in the Ministry of Education, we know best. We know best what is good for you, and we will determine how this thing should be run. So, Mr. Speaker, I didn't write the words of this bill. This is not my bill. This is the bill written by the trustees of the Papawai and Kaikokirikiri Trust, and that is the way it should be. After all, who am I? Who am I to decide or determine how the assets of that trust should be run? When, in fact, as I've said already, I have no whakapapa back to any iwi in the Wairarapa. And so what is it? It is not my business to say what should be in this bill. It is the business of the iwi of Wairarapa, and the collaborative effort across, and you'll see, and it'll be mentioned later on, I'm sure, that no particular iwi are mentioned. It has been a collaborative effort of all the iwi of Wairarapa. And I'm very proud to sponsor this bill on behalf of those people. Mr. Speaker, taking initiative is what these trustees have done. Taking responsibility individually and collectively is a mantra of the National Party. Trusting families and communities to make the right decisions for themselves is a principle of this side of the House. So removing patronising, sanctimonious nanny state legislation that the old Act represents is a very good thing, not just for Papawai and Kaikokirikiri, but for all of us. Mr. Speaker, we don't want or need a nanny state. People do know what they want. People do know how to achieve and achieve their goals. And I'm here to support those New Zealanders, and in a small way to support these people who have shown that initiative and taken the initiative to get this bill through the House. So, Mr. Speaker, it gives me great joy. It gives I'm sure the trustees a lot of pleasure and a lot of relief and a lot of satisfaction that this bill will enable them to do what they want with their assets and their time for their young people. So again, I appreciate the support of the trustees and their supporters. I appreciate the support of the House, across the House, each party across the House, the Select Committee members and the Chair, and I commend this bill to the House.